Bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, nous recevons le rapport final de la Commission sur l'avenir du sport au Canada. Des milliards de Canadiens ont partagé leurs idées et leurs points de vue. D'abord, je veux dire que ce sont les témoignages des survivants qui ont brisé le silence. C'est grâce à leur courage que nous pouvons maintenant construire un Canada meilleur. Ce document trace maintenant le chemin pour le sport au Canada. Je veux aussi remercier 3 Canadiens importants. La commissaire, la juge Lise Maisonneuve, elle a utilisé son expérience de la justice pour diriger ce projet. Dr. Andrew Pipe, il a apporté des dizaines d'années de sagesse et de connaissances sur le sport. Noni Klassen, elle a apporté toute son expérience sur la protection des enfants au Canada. Pendant plus de 2 ans, ces experts ont travaillé pour créer un système sportif plus fort et plus sûr pour toujours. Ils offrent un gouvernement et Canadiens un plan pour rendre le sport meilleur. Au nom de tous les Canadiens, je leur dis merci. Je veux aussi remercier les anciens ministres du sport, l'honorable Carla Qualtrough, l'honorable Pascal Saint-Onge, l'honorable Stephen Guilbeault et la regrettée honorable Kirsty Duncan. Je les remercie pour le leadership. Leur travail a permis de créer cette commission. Je suis fier de faire partie des gouvernements qui ont travaillé pour renforcer le sport canadien. Notre vision pour l'avenir poursuit. Nous avons fait le grand progrès, mais il reste encore du travail à faire. Le rapport montre clairement que le sport est très important pour notre pays. Le sport n'est pas seulement une activité, c'est une partie de notre identité nationale et notre culture. Notre nouveau gouvernement accepte les conclusions de ces rapports. Nous allons maintenant étudier attentivement les étapes pour rendre le sport plus sûr et l'améliorer à tous les niveaux. Les Canadiens peuvent compter sur moi. C'est un travail d'équipe. Nous allons travailler chaque jour pour que le sport soit plus sécuritaire. En tant que le secrétaire d'État du sport, je reste déterminé à bâtir un Canada fort grâce au sport. Ensemble, à tous les niveaux, nous pouvons réussir du terrain de jeu jusqu'au podium et encore, les Canadiens peuvent compter sur moi. Et en anglais. Hi, everyone. Today we welcome the future of sport in Canada's Commission's final report. Thousands of Canadians provided their perspectives and their insights. First, I want to acknowledge that it was the voices of survivors that broke the culture of silence in Canada. It is their bravery and courage that has created a pathway forward for a better Canada through sport. We have a document which lays out the future of sport in Canada. Next, I would like to recognize 3 eminent Canadians. First, the Commissioner, Justice Lise Maisonneuve. For over 2 years, these experts have worked to lay the groundwork for a stronger, safer sports system forever going forward. Justice Maisonneuve has brought her ability to convene an effective meeting and apply a justice-focused lens to all of these challenges. Secondly, Dr. Andrew Pipe has brought his decades of sports knowledge and wisdom to this. And third, Noni Klassen has brought her lifelong commitment to child protection in Canada, and their efforts have given the government and all Canadians a framework for how to make sports stronger and safer in this country. And for all of that, on behalf of all Canadians, I want to say thank you. I would also like to thank the previous Ministers of Sport, the Honourable Carla Qualtrough, the Honourable Pascal Saint-Onge, the Honourable Stephen Guilbeault, and the late Honourable Kirsty Duncan. I'm grateful for their leadership, all the work they did, which ultimately led to establishing the Commission. It was about 10 years ago that the late Kirsty Duncan asked me to come to Ottawa. The first time I had come here in a professional capacity to join a panel, a committee focused on ending violence in sport. That work was productive. It was over a decade ago. I was very grateful for the experience, and ultimately it led to my decision to put my name on a ballot to work constructively to ensure that sport builds up our nation. I'm therefore proud to be part of 2 governments whose work has been focused on strengthening the Canadian sports system. While there has been significant progress, there's lots of work to do. It's clear from this report that sport is of great importance to our country. It's part of our national identity. It's part of our culture. It's certainly not just something that we do after school or on weekends. It's who we are. Our new government accepts the findings of this report, and now we will carefully review the steps required to strengthen sport and improve the sports system at all levels. Sport has the power to unite us, build stronger communities, and support the well-being of Canadians. This is a team sport. We will continue to work every single day to make sport safer and the system stronger. And I want Canadians to know you can count on me. The Prime Minister has indicated that our new government's commitment to grow Canada through sport. And as the Secretary of State for Sport, I remain committed to that end. Together, at all levels of sport, we can do so much more, from playground to the podium. Happy to take a few questions. Thanks, everyone.
This report found the magnitude of abuse in Canada is unacceptable. It said the lack of federal funding is a crisis, and that funding hasn't increased since 2005. It hasn't kept up with inflation. So will the government commit to increasing funding? By how much and when?
Thank you, Ashley, and I'd like to thank you for your years of commitment on this file and this story. Certainly, as the Prime Minister said in Holmenkollen and Oslo just the other day, our government is focused on revamping the Canadian sport system from playground to podium. We want to ensure that that increases funding at all levels of government. I strongly believe that sport isn't exclusively a federal jurisdiction, but we welcome the report and thank again Justice Maisonneuve, Noni Klassen, and Dr. Andrew Pipe for all of their work, but especially the voices of victims and survivors and sport participants across this country. This is the most important document potentially ever in Canadian sport. It details a lot of the methodologies and the path forward for sport to become stronger and to feature more prominently as a nation-building activity and project for our country. So again, I welcome the findings and look forward to doing the work, and I'd like to say again that Canadians can count on me as leader in the sport system to ensure that Canada continues to grow sport.
For athletes watching today, when will you increase funding and by how much? And as well, the report said that they wanted you to come up with alternative sources of funding, including potentially taxing sports betting, as well as professional sports. Is that something you'd move forward with?
These are all good recommendations, and there are 98 such recommendations, so I won't go through those recommendations bit by bit, but one of the main reasons I put my name on a ballot 8 years ago was to ensure that we continue to use sport as a strong nation-building activity, which certainly requires more funding at the federal level, provincial, territorial level, as well at the municipal levels right across our country. So I want athletes, coaches, sport builders, and Canadians watching back home that as we chart the path forward on this project to build Canada sport and strong, you can count on me.
En français, M. Van Koeverden, si on peut vous entendre, sur le manque de financement, justement, le rapport parle d'un besoin urgent d'augmenter le financement des sports au Canada. Comment comptez-vous répondre à cette demande-là?
Merci pour la question. Je suis d'accord, c'est une question d'urgence. Le sport est quelque chose de très, très important et approche le cours et notre culture et identité au Canada. Et c'est tellement évident, c'est clair, notre système de sport au Canada a besoin beaucoup plus de fonds, des investissements. Et je suis certain que c'est un investissement de notre futur, de l'avenir de sport, de notre le fort de notre pays. Merci.
Le rapport parle d'un système qui est brisé au Canada. Est-ce que vous partagez cette vision-là?
Encore, je suis certain que le sport est une part de notre culture et identité très, très importante. Et c'est important de dire encore pour tous les Canadiens, sur cet enjeu très, très sérieux, les Canadiens peuvent compter sur moi.
Abuse in sport has been a problem that's been well known for decades. Successive governments, according to this report, haven't done enough. Do you take responsibility for your government not addressing it to the point where it's still considered widespread and this big of a problem?
I would say that over 10 years ago, the late Minister Kirsty Duncan asked Canadians involved in Canadian sport to come here to work on efforts to fight abuse in sport and to ensure that sport is free of abuse and maltreatment. That work has yielded results over the last decade. We have just recently announced an additional $5 million to a new organization called Sport Integrity Canada. We've seen encouraging results and outcomes, but the work is ongoing and it must continue. And as I said, Canadians who are encouraged by the progress but want to see more can count on me. Thank you.
So no date on the funding you're announcing.
Quick question, are you Minister? This one's easy.
They're never easy. It's okay.
This one is. I'd like to think what the MPs or the NDPs are obviously having their leadership convention?
Yeah, sure.
over the weekend? How important is the future of the NDP to democracy in Canada, you think, a strong NDP?
Well, more than any one party, I think what's really core is that Canadian citizens have the ability to organize, to assemble, to pursue the political causes that they support. Sometimes that manifests itself through the development of and formation of political parties. Other times it's groups of citizens who can raise awareness in other ways. I don't think it's for me to declare the importance of one party over another when it comes to the participation in Canadian democracy. For those who support the New Democrats, I wish them a great convention. I am happy to have their voice represented in the House of Commons today.
But NDP helps you, right?
Yeah, but you know what really helps the political party who's in government of the day is making good decisions that help people in communities. You've got to reflect the experience of the people that you represent and the decisions that you take when you come to Ottawa. That's true whether you're Conservative, Liberal or NDP. It's a beautiful thing about democracy is the highest office holder is not a Prime Minister or a Minister or a Member of Parliament. It's a citizen, and we would do well to remember that.
Mr. Lewis is sort of the favorite. Do you expect sort of a shift to the left, further left of the NDP? Is that
making predictions of what other political parties will do is a mug's game. Those who tell you they know what's going to happen, nobody knows what's going to take place. It's not for me to make predictions. It's for members of their given political party to choose their own leader. That's the way it ought to be. Anyway, thanks very much.
Can we ask you a couple questions?
About what?
Easy peasy.
As long as it's easy.
The NDP is also obviously having their leadership convention this weekend. How important is the future of the NDP to democracy in Canada?
Well, I think we have to have their views on things. People around Canada vote in different directions. They have different political philosophies, and I think the NDP have a place to play in Canadian democracy.
Do you think that if Mr. Lewis wins, do you think that the NDP will be forced more to the left?
I'm not sure. I haven't paid attention too much on what their policy positions are, but I do know that it's be important to have somebody that has a seat here in the House of Commons to be able to express those. I mean, I've seen it time and time again in the Nova Scotia legislature and others where those leaders didn't have seats, and it makes it very difficult for their message to get out.
Do you think there'll be more floor crossers?
I don't know at this point. I guess we'll see as time goes on.
Were you surprised that Mr. Poilievre was texting with the Prime Minister?
Not at all. I think there is a time for us all to be Canadians, and I think that's a positive step.
What do you make of his re-image?
Not going to comment.
Any of the NDP, how important is it that we have a strong NDP?
Well, obviously I think that we always need strong opposition. I would say that whether or not I was in government, and whether it takes the form of the NDP, the Liberals, or the Conservatives, I believe a strong opposition is vital to democracy. I know historically the NDP has been known as the conscience of Parliament. I was, as a child growing up. Obviously, the last election, I don't think they did themselves any favors. So, if there are any disenchanted NDP voters, they are obviously welcome in the Conservative Party of Canada.
You've been calling on Carney to release an MOU with China? Sorry, I'm curious about that. Yeah, sorry to wheel you back in.
Okay.
But yeah, this MOU that you're asking for, what kind of details are you specifically looking for?
Prime Minister Carney said that China was our greatest security threat in the last federal election. He signed a memorandum of understanding with the Communist Party in China. He has not released it, and that MOU was with respect to the sharing of intelligence. What are they hiding? Why would you not share an MOU? There's nothing security related in the MOU. Release it for Canadians. Canadians have a right to know what's in these agreements. I haven't been officially told what the holdup is. I may be asking that question later today to the minister. Thank you.
What minister?
Anetta Singh.
Okay, thank you.
A quick question for you. How important is a strong NDP for parliamentary democracy?
Well, the Canadians have spoken, and they need leadership, and they need to provide a vision that's appealing to Canadians. Right now, they're failing on several fronts.
You don't think their leadership and their future is brighter with a new leader like this under Avi Lewis, possibly?
I haven't followed any of the candidates, to be honest with you, so I'm not in a position to weigh in on that.
For the Conservatives, though, a strong third party, a strong NDP helps you, right? That is your path to victory in many ways.
Well, I think any time that Canadians can make choices is always a good thing. And traditionally, the NDP has had a place in Canadian politics, and I'm sure they will have a place again.
Do you think Canadians want to be veered towards the left, or do you think they would be out of touch if that's the direction they went?
I can't speak on behalf of Canadians. I can speak on behalf of our Conservative Party of Canada, that we offer a very different version of this country that is very appealing to a lot of millions of Canadians. So I'll speak on behalf of the Conservative Party of Canada, nobody else. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Quick question for you. Were you disappointed that Air Canada's CEO did not make his remarks after the tragedy in French?
I saw the video. I mean, I think it would be important that the CEO of Air Canada and whoever's doing this from Air Canada make the remarks in both official languages. You had people on a plane that took off from Montreal, and you had people that spoke both English and French on the plane, and the pilots as well. Of course, he should have.
Do you know anything about his level of French? I mean, he said he was going to make an effort when he got hired for the job.
I don't. I mean, all I know is he said he was going to take courses just like you. I have never tested him on his French, but again, I think they should be doing things in both languages.
Final question. The NDP has their leadership convention this weekend. How important is a strong NDP party with a leader, with a presence in Parliament as an official party to democracy here in Canada?
I mean, I think that'd be more a question for the NDP. I honestly believe the NDP has disintegrated into a marginal party. I mean, their comments on the in the last couple of years have been very, very far to the left, and I think Avi Lewis would continue that. And I guess we'll just have to see if they manage to stay relevant after the convention, and if they choose someone who'll bring them back more to the center.
A weak NDP works in your favor, though, right? You can actually take away some of their support. Is that how it works?
Again, I think parties in Canada should be in the center, and I think that people should have the right to vote for who they want in the election. You vote for your local candidate, and and the party plays a role in that, and the NDP has had a long history in Canada, and of course I welcome all parties in our democracy, but I believe the NDP has drifted very, very far to the left, and I don't see that changing.
And not under possibly Mr. Lewis?
Definitely not under Mr. Lewis.
Why do you say that, though? What about Mr. Lewis?
I think you just need to look at his comments and his rhetoric. I think Mr. Lewis's policies and Mr. Lewis's rhetoric have shown that he's very, very far to the left, and it'll be up to the NDP members to choose. I'm not saying that I'm supporting any particular person in that race, but I've noticed that he is particularly far to the left. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A recovering politician, if you can ask some questions.
The NDP are having their leadership convention this weekend. How important do you think the fate of the NDP is to, I guess, the fate of the Conservatives? When you have a strong NDP, usually the Conservatives usually do better, right?
Well, that's been the history. I think the Conservative message is pretty strong. I don't know that it will make much difference. I mean, I wish the best to whoever wins, because they have an important voice and things to say. I don't think the trajectory the Conservatives are on, which is pretty strong these days, I don't think it'll be hugely affected. I think the Liberals might see a little leakage, but we'll have to wait and see.
Do you think it's necessary to have a strong NDP? Is that important to our democracy?
Well, a multi-party system is good. I'm not a socialist, I never have been, but they bring a message and they represent some people, and I hope they are satisfied with their leader, just as the Conservatives are with theirs and the Liberals are. So it's going to make for a competitive arena, but I think the Conservatives are standing pretty well.
What do you make of Pierre Poilievre saying Alberta separatism would never happen?
I agree with that, actually, having been from Alberta and represented there. First of all, I agree with every grievance that the separatists have, but it's not going to happen, in my view, with all due respect. We need a strong Alberta, and I think Premier Smith is providing that strength. And I think it would be good, actually, to have the vote, and people would see that a majority do not want to leave, and then they can really get down to business in Alberta. But I agree with the grievances, but I don't think separation is going to happen.
Do you view as any NDP candidate as a threat to politics in Alberta, future politics in Alberta?
I don't, really, and I'm not saying that in a way. I don't want to demean anybody. I think those are good candidates that are running. But Premier Smith is doing a great job, representing the majority and the minority. So they'll appreciate the competition, but competition just makes you better, and I think Premier Smith will continue to shine, actually.
Does Mr. Poilievre's comments about not saying that Alberta separatism won't happen, does that hurt his chances, I guess, in many, does it cut into his support from Alberta in any way? His base?
No, I don't think so, because he recognizes the grievances that Alberta has, and he fights for them. And he believes, as I do and others, that the best way to fight for those grievances is within a united Canada, but within a very strong Alberta. So I think he fits in well with that.
What brings you to the Hill?
Well, I got invited here. It was the annual prayer breakfast today, so I was delighted to be there, and I'm co-hosting the Jerusalem prayer breakfast, which is tomorrow. So prayer got me here, I guess you could say.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you,
All right, bye.
The CEO of Air Canada only made a statement after the tragedy in English, not in French. Is that something that should concern Canadians and Quebecers specifically?
Well, yes, we do expect the CEO of Air Canada to be a lot better, given the signal he has been sent and the efforts that he has presumably made over the last few years. So that is not acceptable, and we expect a different tone and language and use of the official languages from the CEO.
You were disappointed that it didn't come in English, or it did come in French.
Afternoon, I'm here to comment on the government's announced changes to the minimum wage. The latest job report underlines the deepening problems in our economy that stem from Liberal policy failures. Over 100,000 full-time jobs lost in 1 month alone, close to 50,000 youth jobs lost. As I said yesterday, we are losing jobs at speeds not seen in a generation. Meanwhile, those who are working face the increasing bite of inflation. We have the highest household debt and the highest food inflation in the G7, adding on to the much-discussed, very serious crisis in housing affordability. Now, the federal minimum wage applies to a very small minority of the workforce, and any changes will quickly be vaporized by increases in the cost of living. Our concern is not principally with nominal value, but with the real purchasing power of what is earned by Canadian workers. And that is under increasing pressure, even as more and more are losing their jobs. So we call on the government to focus on real solutions to the jobs and affordability crisis facing this country. Unleash the economy, fix immigration, fix training, and build homes where the jobs are. Workers and those facing unemployment are struggling as a result of Liberal policies, and today's announcement simply will not change that. Bonjour, je suis ici pour commenter les changements annoncés par le gouvernement concernant le salaire minimum. Le dernier rapport sur l'emploi met en évidence les problèmes qui s'aggravent dans notre économie, problèmes qui découlent des échecs des politiques libérales. Plus de 100 000 emplois à temps plein perdus en un seul mois, presque 50 emplois chez les jeunes. Comme je l'ai dit hier, nous perdons des emplois à un rythme qui n'a pas été observé depuis une génération. Pendant ce temps, ceux qui travaillent subissent de plus en plus durement les effets de l'inflation. Nous avons la dette des ménages la plus élevée et l'inflation alimentaire la plus élevée de G7, ce qui s'ajoute à la crise bien connue de l'abordabilité du logement. Le salaire minimum fédéral s'applique à une très petite minorité de la main-d'œuvre et tout changement sera rapidement annulé par les hausses de coûts de la vie. Notre préoccupation ne porte pas principalement sur la valeur nominale, mais sur le pouvoir d'achat réel. C'est pourquoi nous appelons le gouvernement à se concentrer sur de vraies solutions à la crise de l'emploi et de l'abordabilité qui touche ce pays. Libérer l'économie, corriger l'immigration, corriger la formation et construire des logements là où se trouvent les emplois. Les travailleurs et ceux qui font face au chômage souffrent à cause des politiques libérales et l'annonce aujourd'hui ne changera rien à cela. Merci beaucoup. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you, the UN Human Rights Committee has issued a report calling on Canada to fill the vacancy at the Canadian Ombudsman for Responsible Enterprise. The job's been effectively empty for 2 years. They say that that's a really important rights role. What do you think? Do you think we should be filling it soon, or do you think
it's a responsibility of the Minister of International Trade, not Foreign Affairs? So I'm not involved in it as Parliamentary Secretary there. But I've said for a long time that that's an important position. I think we still have the best mining companies in the world operating out of Canada. I think, by and large, if you're an African country or a South Asian country, you want a mining company from Canada, partly because we have in place the safety mechanisms, and CORE is part of that. Thanks.
The Manitoba government has removed the PST from food because of the high cost of living. Is that something maybe the federal government should consider, removing GST temporarily?
Well, we did that. You may remember last year. I think our focus is to provide more income security to people through the GST rebates, which has been rebranded as groceries and essential benefits, which is being raised significantly. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from places like food banks in my community who are saying that that's going to directly help people, because then they can choose to use that money, whether it's for food or for rent or for other means as well.
Do you think also there's the possibility, like some European nations have removed the tax on fuel for gas? Is that something Canada could consider as well?
Again, I mean, we live in a very volatile circumstances right now. I think the rise in gas prices we're seeing is because of the war in the Middle East. So my first and foremost hope would be, if I could, is for that war to come to an end, that there be a ceasefire. So not only we don't worry about innocent lives being lost in the Middle East, but also to ensure affordability at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was hoping you could tell us a little bit your thoughts going into the leadership convention this weekend. Like, are you optimistic, or do you where do you stand in terms of where we're at right now?
Well, the leadership convention is going to give the NDP an opportunity, of course, to select our leader, and it will really kickstart, I think, the rebuilding of the party under the new leadership. So I'm looking forward to it.
When asked if there was momentum from the NDP, I think Mr. McKinnon kind of scoffed and laughed it off. Momentum, he said. Like, do you agree with that there's no momentum, that you guys are just scrambling and like on your last legs?
I know the Liberals would want the NDP to disappear, because then in the House of Commons and across the country, there will be nobody standing up to hold them to account. Just look at the question period today. Who is holding the government to account in the middle of an affordability housing crisis that the Liberals is quietly cutting funding for people with disability with a program that connects them with housing? As an example, today my colleague Gord Johns also raised the question around Canada's complicity with the war in terms of the killing of civilians with arms export, and will Canada take a strong stance to say no to an illegal war? These are the questions that New Democrats are asking in the House of Commons. So the Liberals would wish for nothing but for us to disappear into the ethers. But I'll tell you, New Democrats are fighters. We're here to actually hold the government to account, and we will be coming back to the House of Commons with new leadership and fighting for all Canadians.
Do you think, I guess, there's this perception that Mr. Avi Lewis has momentum behind him, that he's going to win and that he's going to pull you further to the left? Are you worried about that, and that you'll be less, I guess, palatable for the Canadian electorate?
Whichever leader our membership chooses is somebody that I will support. And, the truth of the matter is, more than ever, we need new democratic voices in this country. We need it in the House of Commons. And so we will be rebuilding. Yes, it's going to be a hard road. I'm not going to sort of pretend that it's going to be a cakewalk. It is not going to be a cakewalk. Right now, Canadians are faced with tremendous challenges. They're very much worried about affordability. They're very much worried about their jobs, about their future. So people are deeply concerned. But in that fight, it is about affordability. It is about our future. It's about Canada's global standing here in Canada and across the globe. And we have to stand firm. And New Democrats will always be on the right side of history, fighting for Canadians, standing up for human rights.
Ms. Kwan, can I ask you a question about a federal watchdog? It's called the Canadian Ombudsman for Responsible Enterprise. It was set up to investigate wrongdoing of Canadian companies and abroad. in mining and textiles. It was set up under Trudeau, but its office has basically been, the chief job has been vacant for 24 months, nearly 24 months. And the UN Human Rights Committee yesterday put out a report calling on Canada to fill that job, saying it plays an important role in sort of policing corporate abuse. Do you have any thoughts on whether the government should finally appoint somebody and keep it going? Because there's concerns by even people who used to work there and ran it that it may be being left to wither and die.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, those positions should be filled. The Canadian government, the Carney administration, I think has a responsibility, not just to Canadians, to ensure that Canadian companies are operating in such a manner that is consistent with Canadian values. And, you know, when those positions are vacant and they're not filled, the Carney administration is sending a clear message to the international community that Canada no longer cares about those values, that Canada no longer is concerned about ensuring ethical practices are in place to ensure that companies respect basic human rights and international law. When you look at what's going on, the sort of about face, if you will, with Carney's Davos speech versus his current action, you're sending a clear message that, you know, the economy is divorced from basic human rights, from international law. But you know what? The rule of law should always apply. Human rights should apply everywhere, and to Canadians and for the international community. You need to be consistent on those values, cannot just turn a blind eye when it suits you, because that's what Carney is doing right now.
Ms. Kwan, one more question. Some European nations have taken off the fuel tax off gasoline. Is that something your party would support in terms of affordability?
Well, right now, I mean, the Liberals has already actually taken the, what's that tax? Sorry, let me just think about it for a minute. What is that tax called? I mean, the truth of the matter is the Liberals have already gutted the tax on fuel already. They've already made dramatic changes that would impact the climate situation. Right now, with the cost of fuel and so on, maybe what the Canadian government should really be looking at is Canada's position with respect to the Iran war. It was shocking to me that Carney came out in support of this illegal war, just thumbing his nose at international law, as though international law no longer matters.
Thank you very much.